Hello and welcome to SDPN's 2023-2024 NBA season previews. Today we're taking a closer look at the Chicago Bulls, another team that is sticking the course, for better or worse, depending on which Bulls fans you ask, and trying to compete with their current core of Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, and Nikola Vucevic. It feels like a long time ago that this nucleus got off to a hot start in the 2021-2022 season, but can they somehow refine their magic this year? But first, be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more NBA content. The season is almost here and we have tons of great NBA videos coming your way to get you prepped for what should be an awesome season. Chicago entered a pretty important offseason in 2023 with pressure mounting around this team to meet expectations. After clinching a playoff spot in 2022, they fell back down to earth in the 2023 season, clinching a play-in spot and nearly squeaking in as an 8 seed. This current core just hasn't been able to be at its best with the absence of Lonzo Ball, leaving a massive void at the guard spot, and that will continue this season as he's expected to miss the entire year, recovering from yet again another knee surgery. And for a storied franchise that has only made the playoffs twice in the last 8 seasons, this is where they need to see results. As far as the offseason goes, the biggest thing was re-signing big man Nikola Vucevic to a 3-year deal worth $60 million, retaining their 32-year-old center. While Vucevic has started to decline and is nearing the tail end of his career, he did have a pretty consistent season for the Bulls and played in all 82 of their games. He bounced back from behind the arc, knocking down nearly 35% of his threes on 4 attempts, and was more efficient from the field in general than he was in his first full year with Chicago. And as far as the defense goes, that will always be a weak point for Vucevic, but the Bulls did find ways to be effective defensively despite Vuce becoming one of the best perimeter defenses in the NBA, primarily because of the brilliance of Alex Caruso. Realistically, defensive flaws and age concerns be damned, the Bulls didn't have many other options at the center spot in free agency to go after, and retaining Vuce was probably the right call at a deal that should be considered fine. Maybe a potential sign of them trying to double down on that defensive philosophy they found last season with Caruso is their additions this offseason in Jevon Carter and Torrey Craig. Carter brings much of the same to the roster that Patrick Beverley did for the Bulls last season as a stalwart defender at the point of attack next to Caruso. With Beverley and Caruso, the Bulls were able to make things hard for offenses on the perimeter and held the #1 defense in the NBA after the All-Star break. There's a recipe of success there, and I think Carter can add even more to that than Beverley did. Carter is elite at the point of attack. He was in Milwaukee last season for the Bucks and even began expanding his game offensively a little bit more. While offensive possessions with him are still best described as a roller coaster ride, the Bulls should be able to run the same defensive scheme with Carter and Caruso at the forefront of it. Defensively, Craig is going to be a big addition to the Bulls rotation as well. The 6'7" wing is elite on the perimeter, should be able to take on the tougher defensive assignments from DeRozan and LaVine and alleviate the pressure off of them more so that they can focus on scoring. Craig isn't the most adept offensive player, but he was able to spread the floor a little bit in his last 2 seasons in Phoenix, especially last year where he knocked down nearly 40% of his threes, albeit on low volume. Essentially, with both Craig and Carter, the Bulls can play the style of defense they were successful in last season while also covering the flaws of DeRozan, LaVine, and Vucevic on that end, which should make them technically a more balanced team. The main thing, and perhaps the more interesting, is if any of their younger players will take a leap this season, because that could really change the trajectory of this team, both in the short term and in the long. The Bulls re-signed both Ayo Dosunmu and Kobe White, 2 offensive-minded combo guards who have had mixed bag seasons in terms of shooting and effectiveness. If either of those guys can consistently shoot at a high level, it can help a team that ranked dead last in 3-point attempts last season and middle of the pack in terms of 3-point percentage improve on that end. But without a doubt, the most interesting young player on the Bulls has to be Patrick Williams, and he's definitely the player to watch for them this season. The 4th overall pick in the 2020 draft hasn't had the start to his career many expected through his first 3 seasons, although it's really only been 2 seasons since he missed the majority of his second year with a wrist injury. And what he's shown early in his career can at best be described as flashes. His 6'7" frame mixed with his athleticism and defensive prowess makes him an intriguing prospect. Offensively, he's improved as a shooter, knocking down 42% of his threes threes on low volume. He's still improving his off-the-bounce game, and he still struggles to create his own shot, but his athleticism makes him ideal for attacking tilted defenses and punishing poor closeouts and late rotations. The real question with Williams is, will he ever be more? Right now, he's projecting to be a 3-and-D player for the Bulls rotation next season, and while that absolutely can work in tandem with their stars, if he can be more than that, if he can break out into a top 50, top 75 player, that could change things for Chicago's future. The main thing for Pat Will is consistency, especially offensively. If he can find a consistent role for himself and adhere to that night in, night out for Chicago, I think he can really have a successful fourth year. Chicago, in all honesty, is in a state of mediocrity right now. They are spinning their wheels on this current core with no real way to break through their ceiling or being a perpetual play-in / bottom tier playoff team in the Eastern Conference. If they want any chance of reaching the next level, it'll be because of Williams. It's a lot of pressure to put on him, yeah, but he does have the potential to get there, and that's why they drafted him so high in 2020 in the first place. Outside of Pat Will, the biggest factor for the Bulls this season will be getting a fully healthy season from LaVine. After coming off of knee surgery prior to last season, LaVine started the year a tad bit rusty, but really got into form after January when his legs got under him. Before January 1st, he averaged 22 points on 46, 38, 82 shooting splits, and after January 1st, through 45 games, he nearly averaged 27 points on 50, 37, 86 shooting. He just got back to being that efficient 3-level scorer that he was in the 2021-2022 season, and that's who the Bulls need to be at their best. His scoring just opens up so much for them offensively, giving a release valve for DeRozan on that end, which in turn opens up things for himself and Vooch, and in short, the Bulls just look much, much better when LaVine is at his best. It's not rocket science. Chicago is projected at most sportsbooks at 37.5 wins, and honestly, I think I'm going to go over pretty comfortably. They won 40 games last season, and that was with LaVine taking the first half of the year to get back into peak form. If LaVine can play like he did for the second half of last season this year, which is likely, and if the Bulls can get any sort of improvement from their young guys, especially Pat Will, I think they will be at 40 to 42 wins next season very easily. They're still going to be in the play-in race, and they're still most likely going to be spinning their wheels long term, but I think given their top-end talent with LaVine, DeRozan, and Vooch, I think they can win 40-plus games next season. But is that enough? Is that enough for them to just continue doing this whole thing again and again every season? What do you think? Should the Bulls just think about blowing it up? Will they be sellers at this deadline, or will they persist with this extremely average team? Let us know in the comments, and as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. See you guys later.